God's chosen ones. He's reaching for you. Only 45 minutes left to respond. ElioraPath. Are you tired of praying to a God who seems deaf? Have you whispered, "Why me?" so many times that even your own voice sounds foreign? Do you feel like heaven's customer service line has been permanently disconnected and you're the only one still holding? Stop everything right now. You didn't stumble onto this video. Algorithms didn't guide you here. Facebook didn't suggest this. YouTube didn't recommend it. Heaven interrupted your scroll. Listen to me very carefully, chosen one. This is not entertainment. This is not inspiration. This is not another feel-good message you'll forget by morning. This is a burning bush moment. And you're standing barefoot on holy ground. Right now, as I speak these words, there are exactly 45 spiritual minutes before something shifts in the unseen realm. Not 46, not 44, 45. A door is creaking open in heaven that's been sealed over your life for months, maybe years. But here's what terrifies the enemy. That same door can slam shut if you scroll past this moment. Someone close to you is about to speak your name behind closed doors. A decision is being made about your future right now. While you're sitting here, destiny is being written in rooms you've never seen by people who don't even know they're heaven's messengers. But you almost missed it, didn't you? You almost kept scrolling. You almost chose the familiar ache of waiting over the uncomfortable miracle of breakthrough. Before we go deeper, I need to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating. You're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention. It all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let that generosity flow as the Spirit leads. But right now, if something in your spirit is already stirring, if your chest feels tight, if tears are threatening to fall for reasons you can't explain, type "I'm here" in the comments. Let heaven know you showed up. Because what happens in the next 45 minutes won't just change your tomorrow, it will rewrite your entire story. The question is, are you ready to stop surviving your calling and start living it? Stay with me. Don't you dare scroll away now. Why have you carried pain that others couldn't even imagine? Why do you feel things so deeply that even good news sometimes brings tears? Why does your heart break for strangers while everyone else just keeps walking? Listen to me, dear one. The pain you've endured wasn't random. It wasn't punishment. It wasn't because you deserved less than others. You were marked, chosen, set apart before you ever took your first breath. You've buried people you loved. You've outlived seasons that once defined you. You've whispered, "Why, God?" in the dark so many times that the words have worn grooves in your soul. You've sat in rooms full of people and felt completely invisible, like you were speaking a language no one else could understand. But what if I told you that every tear, every sleepless night, every moment you felt forgotten was actually heaven taking notes? What if your deepest wounds were never meant to destroy you, but to mark you as someone who could carry what others couldn't bear? Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. Jeremiah 1-5. Read that again. Before your mother even knew she was carrying you, God was marking you for something extraordinary. Not because life would be easy, but because He knew you could handle what was coming. He knew you had the strength to survive what would break others. You see, there's a difference between being broken by life and being broken open by God. You weren't just randomly selected for suffering. You were specifically chosen to carry a weight that would forge something unbreakable inside you. Like steel heated in fire, like diamonds formed under pressure, your pain was personal because your purpose is powerful. Think about it. How many times have people come to you with their problems? How many times have strangers felt safe enough to confess their deepest fears to you? How many times have you been the one holding families together when everything was falling apart? That's not coincidence. That's consecration. You were marked like a letter that heaven wrote but never mailed, waiting for the perfect moment to be delivered. Like a soldier trained for a battle that hadn't started yet. Your isolation wasn't rejection, it was preparation. Your loneliness wasn't abandonment, it was incubation. Every time you felt different, every time you felt like you didn't fit in, every time you looked around and wondered why everyone else seemed to have it easier, that was the mark of God on your life announcing itself. You weren't meant to blend in, you were meant to stand out. Not because you're better than others, but because you're called to something different. The enemy saw that mark on you early. That's why he hit you harder. That's why the storms in your life seemed more intense. That's why you faced betrayals that cut deeper, losses that lasted longer, nights that stretched into years. He knew what God was building in you, and he was terrified. But here's what Satan didn't count on. Every blow meant to destroy you only made you stronger. Every betrayal that should have made you bitter instead made you wise. Every loss that should have broken you instead broke you open to receive more of God's grace. You've been carrying burdens in silence for so long that you forgot they weren't originally yours to bear. You've been so busy being strong for everyone else that you forgot to let someone be strong for you. You've been the prayer warrior, the listening ear, the shoulder to cry on. But who's been carrying you? God has, every single day, even when you couldn't feel him, even when you questioned if he was there. He's been right there, watching you become exactly who he always knew you were. Someone who could love when it hurt. Someone who could hope when it seemed hopeless. Someone who could keep going when stopping would have been easier. Ever felt like you were in a room full of people and still invisible? Like you were speaking but no one was really hearing you? Like your pain was too deep for casual conversation, so you just smiled and said, "I'm fine," while your soul was screaming. That wasn't weakness. That was the mark of someone who understands that not everyone can handle the depth of what you carry. But God sees you. He's always seen you. When you were crying in hospital corridors, when you were sitting alone at kitchen tables, paying bills you couldn't afford, when you were staring at empty chairs where loved ones used to sit, when you were fighting battles no one else even knew existed. He saw it all, and he was taking notes. Your scars aren't signs of defeat, they're proof of victory. Your tears aren't evidence of weakness, they're the overflow of a heart that loves too much. Your weariness isn't failure, it's the natural result of carrying more than your share, so others wouldn't have to. If you've been carrying burdens in silence, comment, "He sees me." Let's break the lie of invisibility together. Let heaven know that you're ready to stop hiding and start healing. Because the pain was personal, but so is the promotion that's coming. The tears were counted, and the reward is calculated. The nights were numbered, and the dawn is breaking. You weren't marked for suffering forever. You were marked for this moment, when everything you've endured finally makes sense, when every tear becomes a testimony, when every scar becomes a story of redemption. The question isn't why you've suffered so much. The question is, are you ready to discover what all that suffering was preparing you for? You're standing in front of a door no one else can see, but it's creaking open. Listen, chosen one. For months, maybe years, you felt like you were living in spiritual fog, prayers that seemed to bounce off the ceiling, dreams that felt more like wishful thinking than divine revelation. You started wondering if God had your phone number wrong, if somehow your address got lost in heaven's filing system. But something shifted 3 weeks ago, didn't it? Maybe it was that Tuesday morning when you woke up at 3:17 a.m. for no reason. Your heart was pounding, but you weren't afraid. You were expectant, like something was about to happen. It wasn't your imagination, It was the Spirit. Or maybe it was that moment last Sunday when you were just sitting in your favorite chair, the one by the window where the afternoon light comes through just right. Suddenly, chills ran down your arms. Not the kind that comes from being cold, but the kind that comes when eternity touches time. It wasn't your imagination, it was the Spirit. Perhaps you've been having those dreams again, the vivid ones. The ones where you're walking through places you've never been but somehow recognize, where voices call your name with such tenderness it makes you weep even in your sleep. You wake up feeling like you've been somewhere sacred, but you can't quite remember where. It wasn't your imagination, it was the Spirit. Here's what's happening, and I need you to understand this with every fiber of your being. Heaven isn't waiting anymore. For too long, God has been gentle with your timeline. He's been patient with your process. He's allowed you to take your time, to work through your doubts, to heal from your disappointments. But something has shifted in the spiritual realm. The mercy season has become an urgency season. Jesus said in Revelation 3-8, "See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut." Notice he didn't say, "I will place," or "I might place." He said, "I have placed," past tense, already done. The door is open right now. But here's the part that should make your soul tremble. Open doors don't stay open forever. You feel it, don't you? That restlessness, that retirement was supposed to cure, but didn't. That strange energy that makes you pace the house for no reason. That sudden need to pray, to seek, to reach for something you can't name but know you need. Your children think you're getting older, more sentimental. Your friends assume it's just the golden years making you reflective. But you know better. This isn't nostalgia, this is divine summons. God is calling your name louder now because time is running shorter. Not just your earthly time, though that's precious too, but the window for what He wants to do through you. The assignment He's been preparing you for your entire life. That window is narrowing. Think about it. All those years of experience, all that wisdom you've gathered, all those battles you've fought and won, all that character that's been forged in the furnace of real life. Do you really think God accumulated all of that in you just so you could spend your final decades playing it safe? This isn't about panic, it's about posture. The enemy wants you to think these stirrings are just age, just hormones, just loneliness. He wants you to medicate the restlessness instead of investigating it. He wants you to dismiss the dreams instead of discerning them, because he knows something you're just beginning to remember. Your most powerful years aren't behind you, they're right in front of you. Moses was 80 when God called him to lead Israel out of Egypt. Abraham was 75 when God told him to leave everything familiar and chase a promise. Anna was 84 when she became the first person to publicly proclaim Jesus as the Messiah. Your social security number might say you're getting older, but your spirit knows the truth. You're getting ready. Those memory flashes you've been having, when suddenly you remember exactly how it felt to believe God could do anything, when you recall that moment decades ago, when His presence was so real you could barely breathe, when you remember what it was like to expect miracles instead of just hoping for them. It wasn't your imagination, it was the Spirit, reminding you who you used to be before life taught you to be reasonable. But here's what terrifies hell itself. You're about to remember who you still are. The 45-minute window I'm talking about isn't arbitrary. It's prophetic. Right now, as we speak, there are spiritual forces moving, angelic assignments being given, divine appointments being scheduled. Your name is being spoken in heavenly councils you can't see but absolutely can sense. You've felt it, haven't you? That electricity in the air. That sense that something massive is about to shift. That feeling like you're standing on the edge of something so significant it makes your hands shake. If you're sensing something rising inside you right now, if your heart is beating faster, if tears are threatening to spill for reasons you can't explain, type "I feel it" in the comments. That's not just engagement. That's your soul answering back to the call of eternity. Because, chosen one, what happens in the next 30 minutes of this message won't just change your perspective. It's going to activate something in you that's been dormant too long. And when it awakens, nothing in your world will ever be the same again. The question is, are you ready to stop living like your best days are behind you and start walking like your greatest chapter is about to begin? You know what breaks my heart? It's not the obvious enemies who attack you from the front. It's the ones who sat at your dinner table. The ones who knew your dreams, your fears, your secret prayers, and used every single one against you. They smiled when you got promoted. They celebrated your engagement. They even came to your mother's funeral. But behind closed doors, they were praying for your downfall. Dear chosen one, listen to me carefully. Not all who walked with you were walking for you. Some were just walking close enough to study your steps so they could trip you later. You trusted them with your heart. You opened your home. You shared your struggles, thinking vulnerability would build bridges. But they weren't building anything. They were gathering intelligence for your destruction. Matthew 7-6 warns us, "Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces." Jesus wasn't being harsh. He was being protective, because some people don't deserve access to your sacred spaces. Think about Samson, the strongest man who ever lived, brought down not by an army, but by the woman who shared his bed. Delilah didn't love Samson. She studied him. She learned his weakness, then sold it to his enemies for silver. How many Delilahs have you invited into your inner circle? How many times have you mistaken manipulation for affection? And what about Jesus himself? Judas didn't betray him with a sword. He betrayed him with a kiss. The most intimate gesture became the signal for destruction. They smile at your table, but they're feeding from your light while cursing your future. You've been there, haven't you? You've sat across from someone who knew exactly what to say to keep you off balance. They knew when you were vulnerable. They knew when to strike. They knew because you trusted them enough to show them your soft spots. But here's what the enemy didn't count on. Here's what your betrayers never saw coming. God was watching the whole time. He saw their fake smiles. He heard their whispered plots. He witnessed their jealousy disguised as concern. And you know what he did? He let them expose themselves. Because this season, dear one, requires something you've never needed before. Not more devotion, not more forgiveness, not more grace. This season requires discernment more than devotion. God is placing you in a season of spiritual gatekeeping. You can no longer afford to let everyone pass the front door of your heart just because they knock with familiar hands. The Holy Spirit is sharpening your spiritual senses right now. That unease you feel around certain people, that's not anxiety, that's divine warning. That check in your spirit when someone speaks, that's not overthinking, that's God's alarm system. You've been too accessible, too available, too willing to give the benefit of the doubt to people who never deserved your trust in the first place. But something shifted when they betrayed you, didn't it? Something hardened, something awakened. The naive version of you died in that moment, and a wiser, more discerning you was born. They thought they were destroying you, but God was using their betrayal to build spiritual muscle you never knew you needed. Every lie they told about you became a filter that separated the real from the fake. Every friend who believed their lies without asking your side, they weren't your friends anyway. Every door that closed because of their gossip, those weren't your doors. God was cleaning house. He was removing access. He was protecting what he's about to pour into your life. Because what's coming next requires a closed circle. What God is preparing for you cannot survive in an environment of sabotage. The blessing he's releasing needs to land in pure soil, not contaminated ground. You didn't lose them, beloved. God removed them to make room. Think about it. If they were still in your life, would you have the mental space for the new opportunities knocking? If you were still trying to convince them of your worth, would you have the emotional energy for the love that's coming? Their betrayal wasn't your failure, it was their disqualification. And now, as you sit in this moment, feeling the sting of their absence, let me tell you something that will shift your perspective forever. The people who walked away weren't strong enough for where you're going. The relationships that ended weren't deep enough for the level God is taking you to. You've been upgraded, not downgraded. Elevated, not abandoned. Refined, not rejected. But here's the catch. You cannot step into this new season carrying the bitterness of the last one. You cannot enter your promise while dragging the chains of their betrayal. Forgiveness isn't for them, it's for you. It's the key that unlocks your future. Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve to be free. If you've ever trusted someone who used your love against you, type "no more" in the comments right now. Let that be your declaration. Let that be your line in the sand. No more access without accountability. No more trust without proof. No more pearls before swine. Because the next chapter of your life is sacred, and sacred things require sacred protection. The question that will determine everything is this: will you learn the lesson their betrayal was meant to teach you, or will you repeat the cycle with new faces wearing the same masks? You know what keeps me awake at 3 a.m.? It's not the bills, it's not the headlines, it's the question that haunts every believer over 60. God, why am I still here? You've buried friends. You've watched your body betray you in ways you never imagined. Your mirror reflects a stranger, and your dreams feel like distant memories from someone else's life. The world tells you your best days are behind you. Your own family treats you like you're already gone. But what if I told you that every breath you're still drawing isn't just oxygen, it's permission? Permission from the Almighty to complete something that only you can finish. Listen to me, chosen one. Your breath isn't accidental, it's intentional. Every morning you wake up when others didn't. Every sunrise you witness that younger folks sleep through. Every beat of your aging heart is a divine signature that says, "I'm not done with you yet." The enemy wants you to believe your delay was defeat, that your wrinkles are failure, that your slower step is surrender. But heaven sees it differently. Your delay was divine positioning. Moses was 80 years old when God called him to the greatest mission of his life. 80. While most people his age were sitting by the fire telling old stories, God said, "Now you're ready." Not when he was 30 and strong, not when he was 50 and confident, when he was 80 and broken by his own failures. Abraham was 100 when Isaac was born. Sarah was 90 when she conceived the impossible. Caleb was 85 when he conquered the mountain nobody else could climb. Do you see the pattern? God doesn't retire his chosen ones, he refines them. Right now, while you're listening to this, there's someone out there whose life hangs in the balance. Someone younger, someone lost, someone about to make the worst mistake of their life. And they need exactly what you carry, not what you had at 25, what you have now. The wisdom carved by pain, the peace forged in fire, the unshakable faith that only comes from surviving what should have destroyed you. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? Isaiah 43:18-19. God isn't talking about yesterday. He's talking about today, about this moment, about what he's about to birth through your weathered hands, your tired eyes, your experienced heart. You think your golden years are your final years? Wrong. These are your foundational years. Everything before this was preparation. The marriage that broke you taught you about unconditional love. The children who disappointed you taught you about grace. The career that ended too soon taught you that identity comes from above, not around. Every scar tells a story someone needs to hear. Every mistake you made prevents someone else from making it. Every prayer you prayed in the dark creates light for someone stumbling through their midnight. But here's what breaks my heart. Most of you are living like you're already dead, waiting for heaven instead of bringing heaven down, sitting in the bleachers when God is calling you onto the field. There's a conversation happening right now in the unseen realm. Angels are asking, are they ready? Will they respond? Will they finally understand why we kept them breathing through all those close calls? That heart attack that should have killed you? Divine intervention. The cancer that the doctors said would take you? Divine deflection. The accident you walked away from when others didn't? Divine protection. You're not lucky. You're chosen. You're not surviving. You're being prepared. And time is running out. Not because death is coming, but because destiny is arriving. That person whose life you're meant to touch is about to cross your path. Maybe it's your grandchild who needs to hear about real faith, not Instagram spirituality. Maybe it's the cashier at the grocery store who's about to give up on everything. Maybe it's the neighbor you've been too shy to talk to. Your voice carries weight now that it never had before. When you speak about God's faithfulness, people listen differently. When you pray, heaven pays attention. When you lay hands on someone, they feel the accumulated anointing of decades. But you have to step up. You have to stop believing the lie that your time is over and start living the truth that your time is now. Moses didn't say, God, I'm too old. He said, here I am, send me. Even at 80, even with a speech impediment, even after 40 years of failure in the wilderness. Anna, the prophetess, was 84 when she recognized the baby Jesus as the Messiah. 84. She didn't retire from the temple. She stationed herself there, waiting for the moment she was born for. That's you right now. Stationed by divine appointment. Positioned for a moment that only your life experience could prepare you for. Stop apologizing for your age. Stop hiding behind your limitations. Stop letting younger voices drown out the wisdom God spent decades installing in you. Your final chapters aren't about winding down, they're about lighting up. Not just for yourself, but for everyone whose life will be forever changed because you refuse to fade quietly into the background. If you still want to be used by God in your golden years, if you're tired of feeling invisible when heaven sees you as essential, type "use me" in the comments right now. Because in the next section, I'm going to tell you exactly who has been waiting for you to show up. Listen to me, chosen one. What I'm about to tell you will either terrify you into action or crush you under the weight of what you've been avoiding. Right now, as you sit there, there's a divine timer ticking over your life. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, literally, and you have exactly 45 minutes before heaven makes a decision about your future that you won't get to vote on. You think I'm being dramatic? You think this is just another preacher trying to scare you into faith? Then explain this. Why did you wake up at 3 a.m. last Tuesday with your heart pounding? Why have you been avoiding that phone call? Why does every mirror you pass seem to reflect someone you don't recognize anymore? Because heaven has been trying to get your attention, and you've been hitting the spiritual snooze button for months. The prophet Habakkuk knew something about divine timing that most Christians never learn. He wrote, "For the revelation awaits an appointed time, it speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it, it will certainly come and will not delay." Habakkuk 2-3. But here's what your pastor never told you about that verse. The appointed time doesn't wait forever. Some blessings are time-sensitive. Some promises expire in silence. You see, God's not running a charity. He's running a kingdom. And kingdoms operate on divine appointments, not human convenience. Think about it. How many times has God whispered your name in the past year? How many doors did he crack open that you were too afraid to walk through? How many divine appointments did you miss because you were waiting for a more convenient time? Moses had 40 years to get ready. When God called him at the burning bush, do you think Moses said, "Can I get back to you on that, Lord? I'm pretty busy with these sheep right now." Number. Because he understood something you're still learning. When heaven calls, you don't negotiate the terms. But you've been negotiating, haven't you? You've been treating God like he's your personal assistant, like his timing should revolve around your comfort zone. Here's the hard truth that's going to shatter every excuse you've been hiding behind. Your delayed obedience isn't just costing you blessings, it's costing other people their breakthrough. That prayer you've been too proud to pray. Someone's healing is attached to your humility. That apology you've been avoiding. Someone's deliverance is waiting on your courage. That step of faith you've been postponing. An entire generation's destiny is hanging in the balance of your obedience. You think your hesitation only affects you. You think you can delay God's plan without consequences. Tell that to the Israelites who wandered in the desert for 40 years because they wouldn't trust God the first time. Tell that to Jonah, who spent 3 days in the belly of a whale because he tried to run from his calling. Every day you delay, someone else suffers. Every moment you hesitate, heaven has to reroute blessings meant for others. Every time you say, "Not yet," you're not just robbing yourself, you're robbing the kingdom. And the enemy knows this. That's why he's been whispering in your ear for months. You have time. God will understand. He's patient. He'll wait. But what if he won't? What if those dreams you've been putting off until tomorrow are actually supposed to happen today? What if that business idea, that ministry calling, that relationship you've been praying about is scheduled to manifest in the next 45 minutes, but only if you say yes? You prayed. You begged, you survived, but you didn't answer. You asked God to move mountains, but when he handed you the shovel, you put it in the closet. You cried out for breakthrough, but when the door cracked open, you were too busy looking at your phone to notice. Now heaven is asking one more time, not with a gentle whisper, not with a subtle nudge, with a thunderous declaration that's shaking the foundations of your comfortable Christianity. Your next yes is the key to the floodgate. Your next step of obedience is the trigger for everything you've been praying for. But it has to be now. It has to be complete. It has to be without reservation. Because in 45 minutes, someone else might get the assignment meant for you. In 45 minutes, that door might close permanently. In 45 minutes, heaven might move on to plan B, and you'll spend the rest of your life wondering what would have happened if you had just said yes. Right now, angels are standing at attention, waiting for your response. Right now, demons are panicking because they know what happens when a chosen one finally surrenders completely. Right now, the very fabric of eternity is holding its breath to see what you'll choose. This isn't about religion anymore. This isn't about being a good Christian or following rules. This is about destiny. This is about purpose. This is about the reason you were born. The countdown started the moment you clicked on this video. Every second that passes is a second closer to either the greatest breakthrough of your life or the greatest regret you'll carry to your grave. So, I'm going to ask you one time, and heaven is listening to your answer. Are you ready to stop playing games with your calling? Are you ready to stop treating God's promises like suggestions? Are you ready to surrender everything you've been holding on to and trust him with what you can't see? Type "Yes, Lord" in the comments if this is your full surrender. Not maybe. Not when I'm ready. Not if it works out. Yes, Lord, right now, without conditions, without reservations, without escape clauses. And heaven just recorded your response. Now, what happens next will determine whether you walk into the greatest season of your life or spend another year wondering why nothing ever changes. There's someone from your past who's been watching you. not physically standing outside your window, but spiritually monitoring your progress. They've been tracking your healing through mutual friends, scrolling through your social media posts, measuring the light that's returning to your eyes. And right now, as heaven prepares to elevate you, they're getting ready to make their move. You felt it, didn't you? That strange pull in your spirit when their name crossed your mind last week. That wasn't nostalgia, chosen one. That was spiritual reconnaissance. The enemy doesn't send random memories. He sends strategic distractions disguised as divine appointments. Listen to what happened in Luke 4:34 when demons encountered Jesus. "What do you want with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." Even demons recognize the anointed. And the person from your past? They recognize something's different about you too. But here's the chilling truth they don't want you to know. Not every return is redemption. Just because they say, "I miss you," doesn't mean it's from God. Just because they claim they've changed doesn't mean heaven sent them. Just because the timing feels perfect doesn't mean it's divinely orchestrated. Think about this. Where were they when you were crying yourself to sleep? Where were they when you were rebuilding your confidence piece by broken piece? Where were they when you were learning to love yourself again in the silence of your own healing? They were absent, unavailable, uninterested. But now that your prayers are getting answered, now that doors are opening, now that you're walking in a new level of favor, suddenly they're having dreams about you. Suddenly they can't stop thinking about you. Suddenly they're led by God to reach out. Convenient, isn't it? The enemy's most sophisticated trap isn't obvious darkness, it's counterfeit light. It's the ex who shows up right before your breakthrough. It's the toxic friend who resurfaces just as you're finding peace. It's the family member who wants to reconcile now that you've stopped chasing their approval. They come bearing gifts wrapped in guilt. "I've been praying about us. God told me to call you. I had a dream that we were supposed to reconnect." But dreams from desperation look a lot like dreams from God when you're not spiritually discerning. Just because they say, "I miss you," doesn't mean it's from God. Just because they quote scripture doesn't mean they're speaking from the Spirit. Just because they apologize doesn't mean they're transformed. Samson thought Delilah's tears were real too. He thought her confessions of love were genuine. He thought her persistence was passion. But every word was a weapon designed to discover the source of his strength so she could destroy it. And here you are, glowing in newfound wholeness, carrying fresh anointing, walking in divine favor. Do you really think the enemy isn't going to send someone familiar to test your boundaries? They left when you were breaking. Don't welcome them back now that you're glowing. I need you to understand something that might shatter your romantic ideals. People don't change because you heal. They change because they choose to. And if they chose to leave when you needed them most, their sudden return now isn't about love. It's about access. Access to your energy. Access to your peace. Access to the level of favor you now carry. They're not coming back for you. They're coming back for what you've become. The version of you that they rejected is now the version that attracts them. The strength they once called too much is now the power they want to drain. The independence they criticized is now the stability they want to lean on. But you're not the same person they left behind, are you? You've learned to sleep peacefully alone. You've discovered your worth isn't determined by who stays or leaves. You've tasted what it feels like to be whole without someone else completing you. So, why would you trade that wholeness for half-hearted attempts at reconciliation? The most dangerous relationships aren't the ones that start toxic. They're the ones that start familiar, because familiarity feels like safety, even when it's actually sabotage. God didn't bring you through hell to have you hold hands with the people who pushed you in. Think about the Israelites. Every time they were on the verge of breakthrough, they wanted to return to Egypt. Not because Egypt was good, but because Egypt was familiar. Slavery felt safer than the unknown promised land. But God didn't deliver them from bondage to have them vacation back in it. And He didn't heal your heart to have you hand it back to the same people who broke it. Right now, in this very moment, you have a choice to make. You can either guard what God has rebuilt, or you can open the door to what God removed. You can either protect your peace, or you can trade it for the illusion of closure. You can either trust the process that brought you here, or you can shortcut your way back to where you started. Here's what I need you to do right now. I need you to type these 3 words in the comments. I choose me, not as a declaration of selfishness, but as an act of stewardship. You're not choosing yourself over God. You're choosing God's version of you over everyone else's opinion of who you should be. Type, I choose me. And this time, mean it. Because the person watching you needs to know that the old you is gone. That version who begged for scraps of affection, who tolerated disrespect for the sake of connection, who believed half-truths were better than whole loneliness. That person doesn't live here anymore. And what happens when they realize you've truly moved on? That's when the real test begins. Listen, do you hear that? That soft clicking sound echoing through the spiritual realm. That's not your imagination, that's the sound of a door unlocking. A door that's had your name carved into its frame since before you took your first breath. For too long, you've been standing in the hallway of almost loved, almost chosen, almost free. You've pressed your ear against doors that stayed silent, knocked until your knuckles bled, and whispered through keyholes to hearts that never answered back. But tonight, something has shifted in the unseen. God's finger is resting on a door with your name carved into it. And after years of hearing, not yet, heaven is finally saying now. Remember that burning bush we talked about? Moses didn't just see a flame that wouldn't die out. He witnessed the moment when the ordinary became extraordinary, when the impossible became inevitable, when a shepherd became a deliverer. That same divine fire that arrested Moses in the wilderness is burning around you right now. You can't see it, but you can feel it, can't you? That warmth in your chest, that stirring in your spirit, that knowing that something is about to break open in your life. But first, let me ask you something that might sting. How long have you been apologizing for who God made you to be? How many times have you dimmed your light because someone else couldn't handle your brightness? How many doors have you walked away from because they told you that you didn't belong? Here's what they never told you. Every rejection was a redirection. Every closed door was heaven's way of saying, not this one, beloved. I have something better. The job that let you go. God was clearing your calendar for your calling. The relationship that ended? God was removing the counterfeit before delivering the authentic. The opportunity that slipped through your fingers? God was protecting you from something that would have crushed your spirit. You've outgrown the place that hurt you. Now watch God send what heals you. Scripture tells us in Revelation 3-8, I know your deeds. See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. Not might place, not will eventually place, has placed, past tense. Already done. The door isn't opening, chosen one. It's already open. But here's where it gets personal. Here's where heaven interrupts your doubts and speaks directly to the ache you've carried for far too long. That love you stopped believing in, it's walking toward you right now. Not the broken, conditional, you have to earn it kind of love. The kind that sees your scars and calls them beautiful. The kind that doesn't run when your walls go up. The kind that whispers, stay, when your past screams, run. You've been so afraid of being hurt again that you've been holding your breath, waiting for the other shoe to drop. But what if this time, the only thing dropping is every burden you've been carrying that was never yours to begin with? That assignment you thought you missed? It's been waiting, patiently, quietly, while you questioned your qualifications, God was qualifying your heart. While you wondered if you were too old, too broken, too late, heaven was orchestrating divine connections that would leave you speechless. And that peace you've been chasing like a mirage in the desert, it's about to settle over your life like a warm blanket on a cold night. Not the kind of peace that comes from having all the answers, but the kind that comes from trusting the one who does. You're about to enter a season where you don't have to explain yourself to anyone, where your presence speaks before your words do, where doors open not because you knocked harder, but because heaven said it was time. The enemy fought you so hard this year because he saw what was coming. He threw everything he had at you. Confusion, chaos, betrayal, financial pressure, health scares, relationship upheaval. But every arrow he shot only served to position you for the miracle that's about to unfold. You survived what was meant to silence you. You outlasted what was designed to overwhelm you. You kept walking when everything in you wanted to quit. And now you're about to understand why the battle was so fierce. It's because your breakthrough is so close that hell is panicking. Let me paint you a picture of what's coming. You're going to wake up one morning and the weight will be gone. Just gone. That heaviness you've carried like a second skin will lift like fog in the morning sun. You'll look in the mirror and see eyes that aren't tired anymore. You'll smile and mean it. The phone will ring with an opportunity you never saw coming. A conversation will happen that changes everything. A door will open that you didn't even know existed. And you'll know, without a shadow of a doubt, that this is God. People who wrote you off will watch in amazement as you step into a level of favor they can't explain. Not because you forced it, not because you manipulated it, but because heaven said it was your time to rise. You're not too late. You're right on time. Your mistake don't disqualify you. Your age doesn't limit you. Your past doesn't define you. The only thing that matters is that you're still here, still breathing, still believing, even when believing hurts. The door is open. The path is clear. The invitation has been extended. The question isn't whether you're ready. The question is whether you'll walk through. If this entire message felt like your journal being read aloud, type "I receive it" in the comments right now. Heaven is waiting for your amen. Don't let another moment pass in the hallway of almost. Your miracle has been released. The only thing left is for you to receive it. Dear chosen one, I need to speak directly to that part of your soul that still flinches when the phone doesn't ring. That part that checks the mailbox knowing it's empty. That part that counted down the hours on your birthday, waiting, hoping, until midnight came and went in deafening silence. No one called. They forgot your birthday. They forgot you. Your children got busy with their own lives. Your friends found new circles. Your colleagues moved on without a backward glance. And somewhere in that silence, you began to believe the lie that whispers, "Maybe I don't matter. Maybe I never did." But here's what hell doesn't want you to know. That silence wasn't abandonment. It was appointment. You weren't being discarded. You were being prepared. Heaven never forgot the one it marked with fire. Let me paint you a picture that will shatter every lie you've believed about your season of solitude. Malachi 3:3 says, "He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver." Do you know what happens in a silver refinery? The precious metal gets thrown into furnace heat so intense it would melt copper, bronze, even iron. But silver doesn't melt. It transforms. The refiner doesn't walk away during the process. He sits, he watches, he waits. Because the moment he can see his own reflection in that molten silver, clear, perfect, undistorted, that's when he knows it's ready. God has been sitting by your furnace, chosen one, watching, waiting, and every tear you cried in that empty house, every night you went to bed feeling forgotten, that wasn't God leaving you. That was God refining you until he could see his own face reflected in your spirit. You were being carved, not crushed. Broken open, not broken down. Think about the mighty oak tree in your neighborhood. Come December, when the snow falls and the branches look like brittle bones against a grey sky, what does the world see? Death, barrenness, the end of something beautiful. But what's really happening underground? Those roots are going deeper, storing energy, gathering strength, building power for a spring that hasn't even been announced yet. To the world, it looks dead, but inside, it's storing power for spring. That's been your story, hasn't it? While everyone else was blooming in their seasons of celebration, you were going deeper. While they were getting promoted, getting married, getting recognized, you were getting refined. And in that refinement, in that holy solitude, God was preparing you for something they couldn't handle. It wasn't over. It was underground. Your prayers weren't bouncing off the ceiling. They were traveling through dimensions, shifting atmospheres, moving mountains you couldn't even see. Your tears weren't wasted. They were watering seeds that are about to burst through the soil with such force it will startle even you. For 37 years, I watched my mother set the table for family dinners that only half the family showed up for. I watched her dial numbers that went straight to voicemail. I watched her iron Sunday dresses for church services, where she sat alone in a pew meant for 6. But what I didn't see then, what none of us could see, was that in that silence, God was doing something supernatural. He was positioning her to become the intercessor for our entire bloodline. Those quiet evenings weren't punishment, they were prayer meetings. Those lonely holidays weren't rejection, they were consecration ceremonies. And when the crisis hit our family, when the phone finally rang with news that changed everything, it wasn't her children who had the wisdom to navigate it. It was her, the one who had been refined in the silence. The one who had learned to hear God's voice above the noise because she had been forced to listen in the quiet. It wasn't over, it was underground. Maybe your phone hasn't rung in weeks. Maybe your inbox is full of bills and advertisements but empty of invitations. Maybe you've started talking to your plants because they're the only living things that seem to need you. But what if I told you that right now, at this very moment, your name is being spoken in rooms you've never entered? What if there are opportunities being prepared, connections being orchestrated, divine appointments being scheduled while you sit in what feels like isolation? What if the very people who forgot to call you are about to need you more than they've ever needed anyone? What if your season of hiddenness was actually God's way of preparing you to handle visibility? What if your training in solitude was boot camp for significance? The enemy wanted to convince you that being alone meant being abandoned, but God has been training you to stand alone so you could stand strong when everything around you shakes. It wasn't over, it was underground. And now I can feel something shifting in the spiritual atmosphere as I speak these words. That tingling in your fingertips, that quickening in your chest, that warmth spreading through your spirit. That's not emotion, that's recognition. Your soul is remembering what your mind tried to forget. You are not forgotten. You are prepared. If your life has felt buried for years, if you've been waiting in the soil of silence while everyone else seemed to be blooming in the sunlight, comment, "I've been underground right now." We're about to break through the soil together, because what's coming next isn't just spring. It's a supernatural eruption that will make up for every winter you endured alone. But first, you need to understand something that will change how you see every closed door, every unanswered call, every invitation that never came. Chosen one, if you've stayed with me through this entire journey, let me speak directly to your heart one final time. Remember this truth. Those 45 minutes weren't just a countdown, they were a divine appointment. Every moment of silence you endured wasn't abandonment, it was preparation. Every door that closed wasn't rejection, it was redirection toward something greater than you could have imagined. You are not forgotten, you are not invisible, You are not too late. The God who sits as a refiner of silver has been watching over your process, waiting for the exact moment when his reflection would shine perfectly through your spirit. That moment is now. What felt buried was actually planted. What seemed dead was storing power for the greatest breakthrough of your life. You've been refined in the silence, carved by the Master's hand, and prepared for a purpose that required exactly the journey you've walked. Every tear was collected, every prayer was heard. Every lonely night was building strength you didn't know you possessed. And here's what I need you to understand. You are not walking into this next season alone. There's a community of believers around the world who understand your struggle, who've walked through their own winters of waiting, and who are ready to stand with you in faith. This channel exists because none of us were meant to carry our calling in isolation. When you comment below, when you share your heart, you're not just typing words, you're joining a family of chosen ones who refuse to let each other walk in darkness. So let me ask you this. Now that you know your silence was preparation, now that you understand your waiting was training, what will you do with the authority you've gained? How will you step into the doors that are already swinging open? Before you go, I want you to know how grateful I am that you stayed until the end. In a world full of distractions, you chose to listen to the voice of heaven. That decision alone tells me something powerful about your spirit. Thank you for trusting me with these sacred moments. If this message touched your soul, please subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. There are more of God's chosen ones who need to hear these words. And you might be the one to share this message with someone who's ready to step out of their winter season. But right now, wherever you are, I want to pray over you. Close your eyes if you can. Let your spirit receive what heaven is releasing. A prayer for the chosen ones. Father God, I stand in the gap right now for every person who has heard this message. I place my hand on their shoulder in the spirit and declare that their season of hiddenness is over. You who see in secret are about to reward them openly. Lord, bless every chosen one listening to this prayer. Heal the wounds that silence created. Restore the confidence that rejection tried to steal. Open doors that have been sealed for seasons. Bring divine connections that will honor the weight they've carried alone. Father, I pray for supernatural acceleration in their lives. Let what should take years happen in months. Let what should take months happen in weeks. Surprise them with your goodness. Overwhelm them with your favor. Let them wake up tomorrow knowing beyond doubt that you have not forgotten their name. For those who feel too old, remind them that Moses was 80 when you called him to his greatest assignment. For those who feel too broken, show them that you specialize in turning scars into stars. For those who feel too behind, reveal that your timing is always perfect. God, surround them with people who will celebrate their emergence, not question their worth. Send them opportunities that match the oil you've poured on their lives. Give them peace that surpasses understanding and joy that no circumstance can steal. And Father, let this community of believers become a source of strength for one another. When one person shares their breakthrough in the comments, let it ignite faith in 10 others. When someone asks for prayer, let this family surround them with intercession. We receive it all now, not because we deserve it, but because you are faithful. Not because we've been perfect, but because you are love. Thank you for refining us in the silence. Thank you for preparing us in the waiting. Thank you for what you're about to do. In Jesus' mighty name, Amen. Now, don't keep this to yourself. In the comments below, tell us what God is stirring in your spirit. Share this video with someone who needs to know their winter is ending. Ask for prayer if you need it. This community will surround you with faith. Remember, chosen one, you were refined in the silence, but you were born to make noise for the kingdom. Your time is now. Until we meet again, may His peace guard your heart and may His purposes unfold before your very eyes. God bless you, warrior. Your breakthrough is here.